The BYU Cougars are off to a 2-0 start to the season as we all expected, but do we really know what BYU is as a football program right now? I do not think so, and I will explain ahead on today's edition of Locked On Cougars.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, your resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Thank you to all of you who are everydayers with us right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. By way of introduction, for some of you who may be checking us out for the very first time, we are your original daily podcast focused on all things BYU sports, and a big thank you to all of you who have supported this show from the get-go. We are 5 years strong into this and having a blast. Frankly, it's been a lot of fun to do this, talking all things BYU. Quick reminder that today's show is brought to you by our title sponsor over at FanDuel. This episode is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get up to $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started on that today. All right, let's launch right in today's show. Mondays during the season, the football season in particular, we do what we call Film Review Mondays. Obviously, BYU beating Southern Utah 41-16. You know, my quick hot takes as well as our listener reaction. I would encourage you guys, if you have not done so already, to listen to the special edition postcast that we did Saturday night, recapping the win for BYU. But I spent this, I guess, ensuing time since then, obviously spending time with family on Sunday, attending church, all that type of stuff, but also sat down and rewatched the entirety of the BYU Southern Utah game to get some of my takeaways and that I may have missed lifetime watching it in person. Obviously, there are things that are concerning for BYU as they get ready now for a real uptick in the level of competition as BYU makes a road trip, their first road trip of the season, going all the way to Fayetteville, Arkansas to take on the vaunted Arkansas Razorbacks. Very much looking forward to that, and we will start digging into them on tomorrow's edition of the show more in depth. But the biggest thing for me coming out of the Southern Utah game is the offensive line is a massive question mark right now for BYU. And the bigger question I have is, who is the real BYU? And that's what I introduced today's show with. Because watching BYU beat Sam Houston State and watching them roll past Southern Utah, I just don't feel like I have a real good feel for who BYU is as a football program right now. They were fully expected, heavily favored to win both of these games. Obviously, it was a 26.5-point favorites against Sam Houston. You failed to cover that spread, and then it was a 30 or it was dropped into the high 29s in terms of the overall spread against Southern Utah. But you handled your business. You won both of those games, and yet now you are 2-0. But I still feel like I don't have a real good feel for who BYU is as a football program right now. And let me explain that, because rewatching this game against Southern Utah, I mentioned the offensive line. It's a massive issue right now. Caleb Etienne was a 13-game starter for Oklahoma State a year ago. Now, Oklahoma State wasn't great, and he was the only offensive lineman to start every game for the Cowboys a year ago. He is downright near unplayable right now for BYU football. Jeff Hansen over there at Cougar Sports Insider, as well as Give Him Hell Brigham, the daily dose he does right here on YouTube as well. He mentioned the fact that according to PFF, the PFF ranking for Caleb Etienne has him as the worst offensive lineman BYU's got, and it doesn't take a PFF grade to see it with your own eyes. He is abysmal right now in the run blocking scheme. Pass pro, he's been okay, but it's not, he's far from elite in that department. And actually, that was the one part of his game that he was considered to be elite at, was pass pro a year ago for Oklahoma State. He's marginal at best at pass pro and downright miserable in the run game. And he's not the only one along that offensive line that's having issues in the run game. Kingsley Suamataia got nicked up early on in that Southern Utah game and never looked like the dominant left tackle we've expected him to be. He has not been that through 2 games this year. So your 2 bookend tackles, guys that you were hoping were going to be one a first-round draft pick in a lot of people's eyes out there that study the NFL draft for a living, and the other one, a guy that was a 13-game starter a year ago for a Power 5 program, one of your conference rivals. He's just not looking the part. And that doesn't absolve the interior of the offensive line. watching them, there were missed opportunities, missed assignments for all three interior guys. Paul Miley at center, Waylon Lapuaho at left guard, as well as Connor Pay at right guard. Crazily enough, to me, just on my naked eye view, rewatching this game and watching with my own eyes, Braden Keim, who came in relief of Kingsley Suamataia, kind of alternating series with him, he looked to me like the most hungry and the most, accomplished offensive lineman BYU had in that game. Number 2 guy for me would be Connor Pay, and we're going to have him on this show coming up on Wednesday. Just a little bit of a PSA for you guys. I'm expecting him to not mince words as he tries to explain what's going on with the offensive line. But right now, you've got a massive issue just in terms of the overall effort level, it feels like, from that offensive line. They're not on the same page right now. And like I said, Caleb Etienne is it's not working. It is not working right now. Is there something you can do to light a fire under him? I hope so, because he is a huge human being. He looks like the prototypical tackle that you want to be a mauler in the run game and just swallow guys when you're dropped back into pass pro, but he's not accomplishing either thing right now. So you got to figure it out on the offensive line. Rewatching the game made me feel even worse for how this offensive line performed. Now, the other thing about this is the running backs have not necessarily been stellar either. That's the thing about this. It was a very, very meager run game against Southern Utah. 46 yards on 23 carries. It's 2 yards per carry. That will not get it done. And if you're doing that against Southern Utah, you can guarantee that programs like Arkansas, Kansas upcoming, Cincinnati, etc., will just game plan to say, you know what? They can't run the football. We're going to make them one-dimensional, and we're just going to sit back and pick them off in terms of the pass game. You've got to find a way to get the run game going, and the running backs need to step up. Aiden Robbins has just been similar to similar to Caleb Etienne. He's been in some cases downright unplayable right now for BYU. LJ Martin, the true freshman 4-star prospect, is far and away BYU's best running back right now in my mind. And he is not perfect by any means. His pass pro during game 1 against Sam Houston, he struggled with it at times. He was not perfect against Southern Utah either, but it's just, you got to find some answers in the run game. The passing game against Southern Utah, rewatching it, it was absolutely stellar. Keaton Slovis looked like the All-American type player that he was at USC, just slinging the rock all over the field, hooking up with multiple receivers all over the field. It was great to see that. Did he have some moments where he struggled? He had some balls that he misfired on? Yeah, that happens with every quarterback. So there's a massive issue right now for BYU in the run game. And I wish I had a good answer for why it is struggling like it is. But to me, you got to shuffle this offensive line. You reopen it to competition this week. You tell Braden Keim, you want to be the left tackle or right tackle? Go earn it. You tell Simi Moala, hey, you want to unseat the other tackle? You go earn that. On the interior of the offensive line, you're telling guys like Jake Eichhorn, Peter Falanico, Ian Fitzgerald, you're telling all of them, the jobs are up for grabs. You didn't win it the first time around. You got a chance this week to win it this time as we go into Arkansas. Go out there and prove you can get it done. Because right now, it is abysmal for BYU in the run game. Like I said, I rewatched this game, and I felt even worse than I did Saturday night, as I was pretty harsh on that run game output. It's not good enough right now, and it will not get the job done for BYU to be successful this season. If the run game operates like it did against Southern Utah in particular, and it continues also from the trend we saw early on against Sam Houston State, we're talking about a team that could absolutely be one-dimensional most of the year, and I'm just not sure that is going to be anything that's going to help BYU get anywhere near bowl eligibility, because these are too good of defenses, too good of athletes across the board in the next 10 opponents for BYU, for the Cougars to think we're going to pick off 4 of these having a pretty good passing game. It doesn't seem sustainable for me. Could I be wrong about that? Could they lean in and become like the Mike Leach era air raid offense of old and just sling the rock all over the field, and that's the way they win games? Sure. But I don't think Aaron Roderick plans on doing that. That's not Aaron Roderick's MO. That's not his style as an offensive coordinator. He prefers a more balanced offense. Now, balance is kind of it's not perfect. You're never going to have a completely balanced offense. There's very rare the times you get 200 yards rushing and 200 yards passing. But the thing is, you've got to have more semblance of balance for BYU to have success in any way, shape, or form. Now, other things I took away from this. Isaac Rex is back, folks. It is really good to see that man doing his thing. He had 4 receptions, 112 yards, and a touchdown. He is back to being the menace at tight end, it feels like, that he was in 2020 when he set that freshman record with the 12 touchdowns. He looked very, very good in this game against Southern Utah, and the hope is that will translate over to games upcoming, obviously, for BYU. They need that safety blanket at tight end. I do have a question behind him about the other tight ends and who's going to step up. Is it Mata'ava Ta'ase? Is it going to be Mason Fakahua? Is somebody else capable of stepping up? They've got to find some options there behind him, but right now he is absolutely lights out. I'm really liking BYU's linebacker trio. I like him even more after watching that game against Southern Utah. And the trio I'm talking about are Ben Bywater, Max Tooley, and AJ Vongpachan. They are absolutely balling out right now. And Isaiah Glasker was in pads on the sideline. Was not in pads on the sideline against Southern Utah. So the hope is that whatever he's dealing with, he'll be back from it soon and be able to get back out there and play. But right now, those 3 lead guys at linebacker for BYU are really, really looking good. I do have a concern about BYU's interior defensive line. Jackson Cravens is an absolute rock in the middle of that defense. He is BYU's best defensive tackle by my projection by far and away. He is the best defensive tackle BYU's got right now. Who is number 2 on that list? It's a massive question mark for me. Atunai Samahe has his moments. Caden Hawes has his moments. David Latu has his moments. John Nelson has his moments. But none of them have really differentiated themselves, in my mind, to become that true number 2 option. Now, Atunai Samahe has been getting the start for BYU alongside Jackson Cravens, but you got to find more when it comes to the interior of the defensive line. These are teams upcoming who will love nothing more than to jam the ball down your throat and control the game by running it down the middle of your defense. And you got to have better interior defensive line play to hold up better against that. Like I said, the linebacking core is capable of making up for some of that, but you've got to have better interior defensive line play from at least one other defensive tackle not named Jackson Cravens. Other thing about this is a lot of you asked me in game and rewatching the game. I don't know what's up with Malik Moore. They did say that him and Eddie Heckard, there was a disciplinary issue that caused them to miss the first series of the game against Southern Utah. Then they both came into the game. Eddie Heckard was very, very good once again at cornerback, but Malik Moore did not play as much as I expected him to against Southern Utah. Was that simply due to the fact that they wanted to get more bodies in there to see what they had at safety? Maybe so, but he allowed guys to get past him a couple of times. That deep ball touchdown to Isaiah Wooden, he got his eyes caught in the backfield and did not get out of his break and allowed Wooden get past him. As the deep safety in this defense, it's a one high safety look for BYU on defense. That single high safety, which is Malik Moore's job as the free safety, you cannot let guys get beyond you on those deep routes, the fades, the skinny posts, you know what I'm talking about, the go routes. You cannot allow them to get beyond you. That's what he allowed to do. I don't know if there's something that health-wise is bothering him. He just did not have his finest performance in a BYU uniform against Southern Utah, and I'm hoping that he will bounce back this week because they're absolutely going to need him as they make the trip to Arkansas. A couple other notes. I got to pull my phone here real quick. I wrote all my notes on my notepad here on my phone. Last other thing, BYU, the passing game, utilized the middle of the field very well against Southern Utah. It was something that the week before against Sam Houston, a number of you were harping on me saying, Jake, they're attacking the outside like they did all last year. They didn't look across the middle of the field. I think they made a concerted effort to attack the middle of the field. Now, this might be a week-by-week thing. Depending on how defensive schemes are aligned, the middle of the field or sometimes the edges going out to the outside is going to be your best bet in the passing game. Aaron Roderick and Fesi Sitake are no fools, folks. They will get it done. They will make sure that Keaton Slovis, as well as the wide receivers and the tight ends, know exactly what they're expected to do in the passing game and where they're going to attack. In the middle part of the field against Southern Utah was exploited fantastically by BYU in this game. It was phenomenal to see that passing game come alive for the Cougars, and they really did utilize the middle of the field. And like I said, Isaac Rex was a direct beneficiary of that. One thing on the safety side of things, really liked what I saw from Tanner Wall, the former walk-on. Played wide receiver for a time for BYU before making the transition to defensive back and safety. He looked very good, I thought, just in the reps that he got. And then the other thing right now, let me also add this. Going back to the run game real quick, BYU, the other thing about this is, and it may be a cheap excuse to file it away as that if you consider it to be this. The one thing that I don't think was necessarily highlighted as much as I probably should have is that Southern Utah, they knew what BYU was running on offense. Their former offensive coordinator, Blair Peterson, was a former analyst at BYU. He's now at Northern Colorado working with Ed Lamb with the Bears in the Big Sky. But he implemented this same offense, like legitimately the same offense that BYU ran down at Southern Utah. The Thunderbirds knew exactly what BYU was going to run. I don't know if you guys heard at halftime, Keaton Slovis came off the field, and the guy who was doing the interview asked him, like, in terms of how are you getting plays? He's like, we had to go to the wristband. They were holding up and signaling in place. Southern Utah cracked the code of what BYU was signaling. So they had to literally signal in, hey, this is the number on your armband, and that's how they had to call plays. They were blitzing into stuff. They recognized what BYU was trying to do on offense. So Southern Utah had a little bit of a leg up in terms of what BYU was running, just because they have that familiarity with that offense. Is it the perfect excuse as to why BYU couldn't run the football? No, because you have better athletes. You have bigger, stronger offensive linemen. You've got better running backs. You've got better tight ends. You need to be able to run the football better, but it did not help that they knew your run schemes. Like that's what Southern Utah did have the advantage of, is they knew exactly what BYU was going to try to do on offense. And once they recognized it, they could blitz into it. Obviously, guys could step into the holes that they knew were trying to be created there, but you've got to be better about this. One thing on the Aiden Robbins side of things as well is right now I think he's favoring more of like a give me one gap to hit. He's not reading it well when it comes to the zone blocking scheme, and I for whatever reason, I don't know. Is he got an injury or something? Is there a mental block? I don't know what's going on with Aiden Robbins, but I am sincerely hoping that they will get it figured out and get it figured out like right now. Because if you don't, it could be a long season ahead. That's the simple truth of the matter, is if you do not get something going in the run game, and I'm not saying you need to go out and bust out against Southern Arkansas and become like the Navy yesteryear teams where you're running for 300 yards. That's great and all, but I'm not expecting that. If you could find a way to muster 100 yards on the ground against Arkansas, that would be a win in my book for BYU. They're going to need to do that because you've got to keep Arkansas off the field. You cannot be relying on your passing game as much as you have been these first two games to get the job done. So, film review. The run game, it is downright abysmal right now. Defense did their thing. I thought they were pretty good. They did have some issues, obviously, but they'll clean those up. Obviously, like I said, you can't allow Malik Moore to have guys get beyond him as the deep safety. They can clean up a couple things in terms of the overall run schemes. It just felt like the other defensive tackles outside of Jackson Cravers were getting washed down way too easily, and that was creating those seams the guys like Targi Lamson and Braden Whistler were exploiting for Southern Utah in their run game. So you've got to be strong on the interior of the defensive line. So I have gone way too long with my film review, but nonetheless, we're going to dive into some other topics here. We got to get to my Big 12 power poll. I did this last week, debuted it. Where do I make of the 14 teams currently in the Big 12 after week 2 of the season? We'll dig into that as we get going right here on Locked On Cougars. Now, a word on our friends over at Athletic Brewing Company. They have been with us for a couple of weeks now, my friends. And if you guys want to give a unique thing a try, you guys need to try out what they're doing with Athletic Brews. They are also sponsoring a new thing right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, as well as Locked On Cougars. It's called your Game Changer of the Week, brought to you by the Athletic Brewing Company. Much like, and I'm going to give this to Keaton Slovis this week, Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. And why I'm giving the Game Changer of the Week to Keaton Slovis is he bounced back from what was a performance, and you guys know what I'm talking about. That was not a great performance against Sam Houston, to look like an absolute star against Southern Utah. He was absolutely lights out, and I would love to see him pick up from that and continue doing that against Arkansas and on down the road, but we'll have to kind of wait and see on that front. But check out Athletic Brewing Company, my friends. They completely changed, once again, the non-alcoholic beer game. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning, and they beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. If you are fancying a brew, give them a shot. If they're fit for all times, you can give them anytime, anywhere, and make any activity more enjoyable, like watching a big game, BYU or your kids' game, tackling a work out, or actually just simply kicking back at work. There are no hangovers ever, obviously, with it being a non-alcoholic beer. So give it a shot today, my friends. First-time customers can use the promo code LOCKED ON and get 15% off your first online order. All you got to do is go to athleticbrewing.com. They also are available at a store near you if you're looking to get them right now. But once again, athleticbrewing.com. Use the promo code LOCKED ON. That's LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off your order. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at UCCU. We've been talking about UCCU for months now. They have been a very strong partner of ours right here on Locked On Cougars. They have a new thing called the UCCU mobile banking app, and Learn and Earn. It is paying your entire family to learn about money. Kids look to parents to become financially literate, and parents don't always have those answers, and that's where Learn and Earn from UCCU comes in. It helps you learn about money in fun, bite-sized educational games using quizzes and trivia. The best part is every time a family member completes a topic, they earn points that accrue and can be redeemed for gift cards to stores like Amazon, Apple, Sephora, Walmart, Nike, and many, many more. There's age-appropriate content for every member of the family, and the best part is Learn and Earn is inside the UCCU mobile banking app, so you can play it anytime, anywhere. The more you play, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the more you earn, my friends. Learn and Earn, part of UCCU's award-winning Be Money Smart youth banking program, helping kids, teens, and parents have fun while becoming more financially literate together. That's the best part about it. UCCU, love where you bank. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars a part of your day. Thank you for being everydayers with us right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Reminder for you guys that coming up on Friday, I would encourage you guys to check out our brand new Locked On College Football Kickoff live show. It happens every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel, including this one. It covers everything in the college football world, getting ready for the week ahead. So it'll be week 3 this week. Check that out from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's 9 to 11 a.m. Mountain time here along the Wasatch Front. Locked On College Football Kickoff live. All right, it is time now for our Big 12 Power Poll on a Monday, running down what I think, and this is simply my opinion, and I had some great feedback last week. Some of you guys thought I was up in the night on Kansas State, UCF, among others. One of you thought there's no way you can put Baylor at the bottom even though they lost to Texas State. They lost to Texas State, dude. They lost by 20-plus points. Just no. Okay. So let's kick it off. This week, Texas, they go to Alabama and beat Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa. You are number 1, and you look the part of the Big 12 champion. Most people thought you were going to be in the preseason. Texas is back, folks. You've probably heard that terminology a time or two in the 24 to 48 hours since they won that game at Alabama. But the Longhorns very much look the part. Number 2 in my rankings this week, I am going to move Kansas State back up to number 2. And a couple of you had questions why I had Kansas State as low as I did a week ago. But Kansas State, they were the Big 12 champions a year ago. They won the Big 12 championship title game. That's a title game last year. And they look like they're going to be right in the mix yet again this year. Chris Kleiman is a really, really good football coach. It's a hard-nosed, just really edgy team, speaking to the Wildcats. And I really, really like what I'm seeing from them. I've got a really good friend, Travis. You're going to love this. You convinced me. I'm putting UCF 3. UCF, folks, they are high flying right now. Gus Malzahn has got athletes. He's got speed. He's got just a quarterback in John Rice Plumlee who's absolutely lights out. UCF looks the part. They were considered to be the best of the 4 newcomers to this conference, and right now I've got no reason to disagree with him. Number 4 on my list, Oklahoma. Now the Sooners kind of ground out a win against SMU. Wasn't the finest performance. Also, they still won the game. I had them, I think, was it 3 last week if I recall correctly. I'm going to go with Oklahoma. By the way, I promised I would get a graphic built. I have not done that yet, so apologies for that. I got a lot of other things I got to get done. I still mail out some of your guys' prizes from that giveaway we did during the summer. So bear with me. Number 5 on the list, the Kansas Jayhawks. BYU will face them in the Big 12 opener a week from Saturday. Kansas is kind of just doing their thing right now. Are they looking lights out? No, but at the same time, they're looking the part. Jalen Daniels looked very, very good in his first game action of the year after missing week 1. Really liked what I saw from him. Number 6 on this list, we go to Cincinnati. The Bearcats have surprised early on this season. Will it hold up the entire year? We're about to find out. But Scott Satterfield has impressed me, and the Bearcats as a whole have impressed me because they had a massive turnover on that roster, but they've done very, very well so far this year. Number 7 on this list, halfway through, TCU. Horned Frogs kind of steady there. They did lose that game against Colorado to start the season, but Colorado looks the part, folks. I'm as stunned as anybody, so I can't ding TCU too much this week for it, so I'm going to stick them in at number 7. Number 8, give me BYU. I think the Cougars are right there in the middle of the pack right now. They're 2-0, handle their business, but kind of going back to my original point, I don't necessarily know who BYU is. We're going to learn a lot more, I think, when they take on Arkansas this week. Number 9, Texas Tech, heartbreaking loss. You can't have that pick six that Tyler Shuck gave up in that loss to Oregon. Had they pulled that off, they probably rocket up into the top 3 or 4 in this. But as such, they're number 9. Oklahoma State's going to be number 10 for me. I don't like Oklahoma State. They're still playing 3 different quarterbacks. They were in a really weird game against Arizona State late Saturday night. I just don't know what Gundy, speaking of Mike Gundy's going to do. His son is one of the quarterbacks he's playing right now. I just don't get it. Let's see. Then number 11, Iowa State. Number 12, West Virginia for me. I think that those two are just kind of self-explanatory. Baylor's still trying to dig themselves out of the basement. And, well, when you had a chance to knock off Utah and get yourself right back up into near the top of the power rankings, you had to go and lose that one in the final few minutes of the game. So Baylor stuck at 13. And then bringing up the rear this week are the Houston Cougars. When you lose to Rice, yes, and trust me, Rice and them, the battle for the Bayou Bucket, I get it's a rivalry game. It's a crosstown rivalry between Rice and the Cougars. It's Cougars versus the Owls. You can't lose. Okay, here's the thing. Rice built up a 28-0 lead. Houston, under Dayton Holgerson, has a really high-flying offense, and they came rumbling back to tie it at 28. But you can't go into overtime and then lose it to Rice. Mike Bloomgren and the Rice Owls have just been bad, downright bad for so long. JT Daniels is their starting quarterback. Sorry, Houston. You're number 14 this week. So there you go. That's my 14 teams. So let me know what you think. I'd love nothing more than to have you guys respond. Like I said, we had great reaction last week to my power poll as I put it on Tuesday. But if you guys got thoughts on this, I'd love nothing more than to hear it from you guys. Maybe what I'll just do next week, I'll literally create a Google Doc and just rate 1 to 14 and just share the screen. Maybe I'll just do that. I had these grand illusions of creating some magnificent graphic. Maybe Locked On, the network guys can help me do that. But those are the power rankings for this week. And like I said, I solicit your feedback. Please drop them in the YouTube comments below if you're watching this online, or fire back at me. If you guys have my cell phone, please text me. You can DM me on Twitter, drop me, just tweet at me. I welcome any and all feedback you guys have got for me when it comes to the power rankings. All right, final notes on today's show coming up next, including some very, very impressive week 1 performances in the NFL by some former Cougars, including one guy you know simply as Puka. We're talking about all that as we continue on right here on Locked On Cougars. A quick word real quick, though, on our friends over at FanDuel. Of course, FanDuel's been working on this for months now. Get ready for the NFL season, which just kicked off with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets back guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5, you can get $100 off your NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV right now. If you want to watch your team, those out-of-market games, you can save a significant chunk of money, $100 off via our friends at FanDuel. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use. You can bet on everything from spreads to player props and many, many more options out there, courtesy of FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/locked on to get started today. It's all courtesy of your friends at FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars a part of your routine, everybody. Hoping to have a fantastic Monday here on the show. Any and all feedback is welcome on the show, as well as I'm going to solicit your guys' help. If you have not liked the show, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're not subscribed to the channel, I would encourage you guys to do so. Hit the like button, enable notifications, leave us a rating, a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. A review would absolutely be welcome as well. Any and all support you guys can offer to the show is much appreciated. Would encourage you guys to do just that. All right, a couple of notes before we go on today's show. The undefeated start for BYU women's soccer and women's volleyball was only going to last so long. It just was inevitable. And tough loss for BYU women's volleyball in the final game of their matchup in the Cougar Challenge up at Washington State. The Washington State Cougars upended BYU at Bowler Gym 3-1 on Friday night. Tough loss for BYU in that one, obviously, but the Cougars now have dropped their first match of the season. They're back in action Wednesday night as they welcome Utah to the Smith Fieldhouse, an opportunity to bounce back for BYU women's volleyball. Interested to see where they fall in the standings this week after that loss to Washington State. Cougars, speaking of Wazoo, were ranked 13th, but I think BYU may drop just outside the top 10 with that loss. We'll see what happens there. BYU women's soccer, on the other hand, decided to hand Utah just a big fat L. 6-1 win up at Ute Field for BYU. Braces scored by Allie Fryer as well as Olivia Smith-Griffiths led the Cougars in that win. Fantastic showing for the number 1 ranked team in the country. They are going to be back in action for the first Big 12 conference matchup of the season. All sports. Also, it'd be the first Big 12 matchup for all BYU sports as they welcome TCU to Southfield to be at 7 o'clock on Thursday night. It will be televised on ESPNU if you want to check that out. And then the final notes is BYU men's and women's cross country had a fantastic showing in their first meet of the season, I should say. The number 3 ranked BYU men's cross country team won the Autumn Classic, their home event, 17 points. So really, really good showing for BYU men's cross country. And the number 7 ranked BYU women's cross country team ended up winning theirs as well. They had 15 points. So fantastic showings. They had all 5 top 5 places for BYU women's cross country. So good showings for both of the cross-country programs as well. And then the final notes is the NFL is back, and it was really fun to sit down and watch a lot of it yesterday, and some former Cougars absolutely put on fantastic performances. 2 I'm going to point out in particular. I got to give a shout-out first off to Tyler Allgeier, vulturing touchdowns at the goal line for the Atlanta Falcons. He had 2 of them in the season opener for the Falcons. Really fun. To see Tyler Allgeier doing his thing for Atlanta. He's got such an incredible story, being a preferred walk-on to BYU out of Fontana, California. Then ends up being a linebacker for a season for BYU, actually leading them in tackles in a game against Boise State. The following year, he moves over to running back and then goes and leads BYU to a huge win at Boise State as their leading running back. Goes on to have one of the more spectacular, if not the most spectacular single season in BYU football history in 2021, and then was just an absolute star down the stretch a season ago for an otherwise nondescript Atlanta Falcons team, but really, really fun to see him doing his thing. Congratulations to, as Sean Walker called him, 2-touchdown Tyler on the day. But the real big star of the day belongs to Puka Nacua. Holy smokes, folks. 10 catches, 119 yards. It's 11.9 yards per reception. The young man was absolutely lights out for the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I admit I have Cooper Kupp on my fantasy football roster in the league I'm playing in. Him being put on the IR absolutely hurts me. But if it gives a guy like not Tyler Allgeier, gives Puka Nacua the chance to do what he's doing out there, I will take it every single time. He is absolutely just killing it right now for the Rams. Like I said, I think ESPN Stats and Information put this out here. Puka Nacua had 10 receptions for 119 receiving yards. He becomes the 4th player in NFL history to have 10 receptions and over 100 receiving yards in his first career game. The only other player that's notable of those 3 other players is Anquan Boldin, who is a Hall of Famer in his own right. Anquan Boldin did it in his debut in 2003. 20 years later, Puka Nacua matches Anquan Boldin. Kiki Kute, I believe, played for the Houston Texans for a minute. And then way back in 1964, Sid Blanks was the other player to do it. So Puka Nacua in some pretty elite territory with that, showing the Rams getting the win up there against the Seattle Seahawks, and really, really fun to see. And man, Puka, we got robbed a little bit. It feels like as BYU fans, didn't we? Some of the injuries he dealt with obviously took him off the field at BYU. Would have been fun to see him do more in a Cougar uniform, but it is awesome. I gotta say, it is fantastic to see him doing his thing in the NFL. I guess one other tip of the cap, because I'm a loyal 49ers fan. Fred Warner just absolutely looking lights out. This 49ers defense stifling the Steelers in Pittsburgh. 49ers winning that game 30-7, and Fred just looking like just another great season is coming for what is probably the best middle linebacker in the NFL right now. So really, really fun stuff for former Cougars and the pros. I need to dig more into some of the other stats for these other former players, and we'll probably do a fuller recap maybe on tomorrow's edition of the podcast. All right, we are a little bit over time, but big thank you all the same to all of you for your support of the podcast. As always, coming up on tomorrow's show, we're going to recap what we learned from media availability today. BYU head coach Kalani Sitake having his weekly press conference as BYU really ratchets up the level of competition against Arkansas. Just one thing, they're saying that Raheem Sanders, Rocket Sanders, who absolutely torched BYU in that game a year ago with 175 yards or some such, he may not be able to go for Arkansas. Hoping to get some more clarification on that today as well from the Arkansas side of things. So we'll start to dig into the Razorbacks on tomorrow's edition of the podcast and news and notes of what we're able to collect in the meantime. So there you go. You're up to date on everything I've got for you guys on a Monday. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you once again for making it your first listen of the day, and thank you for being everydayers with us right here on Locked On Cougars. We will talk to you guys again tomorrow. See ya.